Okay everyone, I was asked to give a tutorial on how I cut the holes in a pipe bag. So these are the things that you'll need to do it the way that I do it, and I can't take credit for this. I learned how to do this method by my friend Todd Muscat. So just a simple pin. This is a small block of wood, maybe 1/4 of an inch thick by 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. This is a 1-inch plumber's tee that I've sharpened this edge on. I use a square just because I like whenever I tie in a bag, it feels exactly the same as the previous bag that I had. So if I use this, it's very precise. And you might need a wooden dowel to stretch out the neck of the bag if you're tying in a bag that's a swan neck or a goose neck, if you will. So these are the measurements that I use, and they're pretty common. After you've taken the bag and massaged it a bit or softened it up by wringing it out, makes it a lot easier to work with. Take the bag, lay it flat, and fold it in half with the top of the bag running perfectly in line with the other top, or level, and with the welts meeting up at the end in the same place. And where that folds in half is actually the very middle of your middle tenor. And I already have marked this bag out, but you're going to put a little mark right where that fold is at. All right. Then you open the bag back up. You take your square and you find this mark. You line it up. You come down 1/2 inch and put another mark. And then I put a straight line down from there. Then at the top where you put your original 1/2 inch mark at the halfway point, I go to the front of the bag 1/2 inch and put a mark, and to the back of the bag and put a mark at 1/2 inch each one. And then I do 1 inch forward as well, and that gives me my location of my bass drone towards the front of the bag. So off that 1 inch mark, going forward from the center hole, this one would have been the center hole, I have a 1/2 inch and a 1/2 inch, and then there's my 1 inch mark. From that 1 inch mark, I go down 3 inches, and I put a mark. Then I go out 1/2 inch on either side of that mark, top and bottom, and 1/2 inch forward and back, and mark it. That's where my bass drum goes. So 1 inch forward from the middle tenor and 3 inches down. Then I fold the bag in half again, which is not half, but half to the center line. So I'm going to line the welt up with this center line, and again the top of the bag running parallel with the other side of the top of the bag. And now at that fold, I'll put another mark, and that's where your blowpipe goes. From there, I come down 5/8 of an inch to give me my first mark, and then I go 1/2 inch from there, top to bottom and front to back, and mark it out. I go out 5/8 of an inch down rather than 1/2 inch down because I feel that it causes the blowpipe to point towards my mouth better and doesn't want to pop forward. So then another 1/2 inch mark forward and a 1/2 inch mark back. Then you're going to flip the bag over, and this is for doing your outside tenor. So you've got your marks. This would be your middle of your center tenor, and there's our 1/2 inch mark going back. That's the line that you use for your outside tenor. So it's the same thing as the bass drone as far as it being 3 inches down, but it's only 1/2 inch back rather than 1 inch forward. So again, exact same thing as the bass drone, only 1/2 inch back. So I'm going to line up the square with that. I come down 3 inches, give myself a mark, go up 1/2 inch, go down 1/2 inch, and then forward and back 1/2 inch. I don't know if we can get this in the video very well, but that's what it should look like. And that's for all 4 of the holes that you'll cut. Then I take the wooden block and I stuff it through the neck of the bag. Now if you have a swan neck, it might be difficult, so a 1-inch wooden dowel you can put up into the neck a little ways and just stretch it out to make it easier to get the wooden block into the bag. But with a straight neck, you typically don't have to, and it's also dependent on the size of your block. But this block needs to be big enough for you to easily line up this T and have plenty of room for this to cut on. The skin of the bag, the leather will go right in here and this will cut on it. So you don't want it to be really small, or it'd be hard to get this to line up without it going over, and then you wouldn't be able, it wouldn't cut the bag. So I just stuff this in the bag. It's sometimes easier said than done, but it should go in just fine. Kind of helps to open up the leather on the inside, make it easier to get the block in there. And you can start with whatever hole you want. This one happens to just, sometimes it drops all the way down to the middle of the bag, but this one just stopped right here at the blowpipe one. So what I do is I line those 5 hash marks, or the marks that I made, so that way the 4 outside ones are not hanging over the block of wood. So it's hard to tell probably in the video, but they're not hanging over. So then I take my plumbing tee that I've sharpened, and I'm going to put it on here. And if I don't see those 4 holes, 4 marks all the way around, then I know that I pretty well have it centered. Then you just put your weight on it and twist it, and you can tell when it's cut pretty much all the way through. It has a different kind of feel when it starts cutting on the wood. And sometimes it comes out inside of here, or sometimes there's a little bit still caught, and you might have to use an X-Acto knife or just give it a pull. And you can see that it's pretty well dead center. So you're going to repeat that on all 4 of these holes. And then you want to make sure that you take the block of wood back out. So I don't need to show you cutting the other 3 holes, but that's it. So just make sure you take the block of wood back out, or every time you strike in, you'll be part of the snare line with that block of wood rattling around inside the bag. That's it.